to Double Blessings. I'm Carol.
And I'm Carolyn.
And today we have a very special guest on. We're very excited. Actually, when I first met Michelle at a massage that shouldn't have happened because I happened to be at a high school watching a play for 2 hours on wooden chairs that wrecked my back. So I had to look for a massage therapist last minute. And I ended up asking one of my clients, who's a massage therapist. She happened to not have room, and she sent me Michelle's number. So that's how me and Michelle met. And it's interesting because before I left the house, I was telling Corey, I don't want to talk to anyone today. And if anybody knows me, I like talking. So for me to say that is like a big thing. He ended up giving me his iPods so that I could go have this 2-hour massage in peace. But then something strange happened. When I met Michelle, I don't know how we started talking about this, but it just so happened that we started to talk about Christ and how it just went from there, and we were so in sync, and just stuff happened from there. I just was so excited to have her on the channel, so she'll be able to tell you what she was kind of sharing with me in the room. And needless to say, those 2 hours weren't quiet. So I'd like to introduce everyone to Michelle. And so Michelle, what were your thoughts when we first met? And I kind of dropped all those little bits and pieces when I started talking about this evil eye bracelet. What were your thoughts?
Well, before that, you know, being in your line of work and all, I thought we were going to relate for sure because I'm into health and fitness and things like that. And I thought, oh, we're going to relate on this. And I asked you about food and things like that. And we actually talked about swearing. And
that's what it was.
Yeah. And I was like, I do have a bit of a potty mouth and I'm trying to work on that.
Mm-hmm.
But you said that first, and you said, I've prayed about this. And I was like, whoa, that's wild. She said she prayed to a stranger because, well, we all know you don't just go around talking about that these days, right? So
Right.
I just, in my heart, I was like, that was bold. Oh, this is going somewhere. But I was so patient and listening to you. And you talked about that. And then I said, yeah, it's been on my heart to mind my mouth as well. And then just boom. And I said, eventually, how did you suspect you should talk to me about this? And you said, I don't even know. And then it was like kaboom. We just started talking about God.
Yeah,
And
it
you know
was
what? Before, Carol, you said that you need to go to the bathroom, but then you also wanted to pray because
I saw
being
these
in such
cards.
an intimate environment and somebody's massaging you and they put their hands on you. And the work that Carol and I have done a lot lately is being mindful of who we allow into our sphere,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
especially in that sort of environment. I know that there was prayer work that she did, and then
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm going to actually say this because it's kind of controversial, right? But I'm going to say it anyways because I think everybody needs to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
When I was filling out the form online for Michelle's forms, it actually had the pronouns section. And so I had filled everything out except for that because I've never done that. I've never put pronouns at the end of my name or anything like that. But I couldn't actually submit the form until I participated in that. Mm-hmm. And that bothered me a little bit because I just have never done that. And I don't know why. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I just have never been on board with the pronouns, just to be honest.
And it's not like, it's my sister Carol's like a hater or discriminates. She's just like,
it just never felt right for me. It
doesn't align with my values, so why should I be forced to fill this out?
And it just never felt right for me. So I don't hate on anyone that does it. I just don't want to be forced to do it if it doesn't feel right for me. Mm-hmm. But then I was a bit forced.
Yeah.
So I did it.
Yeah.
And then when I came through the door, when I saw you, because I remember you had a question for me after. Can I share this?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that you said, when you met me, Did I look like a lesbian to you?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, no one's ever asked me that. And I'm going to, but, and I said, well, I'm going to be honest. Yes, but here's why. And it was because of that form that I was having to fill out, right? The pronouns. So that's why I had that thought.
Mm.
And then prior to that, I had picked up cards off of the desk, and there was some crystal healing, Reiki business cards. And I had the thought of, well, I hope that she doesn't practice that, because I didn't want to subject myself to that, just because of my beliefs and my faith. And so that's why I did the prayer, just
Okay.
to do the armor of God.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Well, we ended up
what?
talking about that, and lo and behold, I'm so actually glad you brought that up, because I didn't put that in the form. The website that I use for my client booking, that's all them. And normally I do the intake for my client and I fill that out, and I skip that bit because I also don't care. Like, I don't want anyone to be offended by how I address them, but it's my philosophy that I just treat bodies. It doesn't matter. Like, I have treated transgender folk, and it's just as respectful as any other massage. So to me, it's kind of a non-issue. And the only way somebody might be, upset about it is if I accidentally call someone who prefers he to she, or, and it's a conversation to have. And, but I also have never done that.
Yeah, I would have never, I should say that, is I would never call someone other than what they wanted to be called, because I'm not evil like that. But again, I just felt a little bit uncomfortable filling out the form, because I just had never been asked to participate. So, okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions now. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So, can you share a bit about your childhood and how your faith began?
Yeah. So a lot of people have a similar story in regards to their testimonies that I've listened to. And this, hits a whole spectrum of drug addiction, people who are involved in the occult and get delivered, and people who are gay and get delivered. You hear this story so many times. I grew up in a Christian home, but what does that really mean? And that is the meat and potatoes, right? You go to church, you do the things, and I believe I did have a really good exposure to having a relationship with God. It's more like, for my family, it's always been about the relationship, not the religion. It didn't matter what church we went to. There was no denomination preference. Just if they preached the Bible, that's what it was. But sin creeps in. Not everybody's living for the Lord, My dad doesn't. My mom does. And we've all kind of backslidden in our lives. I have two older sisters. We've all, fallen into sin and come back around, all of us. And it's quite amazing, My story's not that unique if you just talk to people. And so I grew up going to church up until probably my pre-teens, let's say. And that's when I really, changed, I would say. And so I had God and I had sin, and I kind of can hit both targets, looking back, right?
Yeah. So then at what point in your life did you first realize that you were struggling with same-sex attraction?
It was in junior high. Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And how did you respond to it?
So I was in junior high, and, well, it kind of sounds nice when I put it this way, but my best friend and I fell in love. And that was a totally different feeling than having a crush on a boy. It progressed very slowly because it was scary and taboo, right? And so,
And how old were you?
I would have been 14.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And so we were in a relationship for, a year or so, just about a year. And, well, I ended up getting my heart broken. We had to still pretend to be best friends after that because, one of the weirdest things actually about it all was people in our class were calling us lesbians before anything ever happened. That kind of
Whoa.
blows my mind a little bit.
But they could see that maybe you were so connected and so
Mm-hmm.
Well, and they talk about word curses, right? We need to
Mm-hmm.
be careful, like it says in the Bible, with the words that come out of our mouth,
Mm-hmm.
because we can curse
Oh yeah.
ourselves and others.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's power in the tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it progressed to there, and then I got out of high school and I got another girlfriend.
Did you ever
so
have an attraction to men?
Yes,
Mhm.
actually, if you want to go there. I did like some boys in junior high too, and
Okay.
well, I don't know. To be honest, they just wanted some physical contact, and the girl wanted the relationship, and that felt way better to
Oh.
me. Like I did try to pursue something with boys that I liked, but it was all about using you for
Mm,
physical gratification. So I
right.
didn't get a good uh, picture in my mind or a good experience with boys, and with my girlfriend, it was amazing, to be honest.
okay. So at what point did you ever feel guilty when you were in those relationships since you were kind of seeking God?
Yeah, I did. Um, that's one of the messed up things. It's very back and forth. But when I was 19 years old, I really was trying to resist. And I think it was after my second girlfriend broke up with me. Actually, she'd gone off to Bible college in New Zealand. And the funny thing is, the first two girls that I was in a relationship with, they were both Christian or churchgoers, right? My first girlfriend was Seventh-day Adventist, and my second girlfriend, I don't know what kind of church she had gone to, but they were Christian. And I was like, awesome. Look, God is giving me girlfriends who are Christians, so like maybe this could be okay, right? I was trying to fit it
Um,
into it just didn't fit. And so she actually broke up with me from Bible college via airmail,
Oh.
and we would email back and forth, and I just couldn't understand. But she was feeling guilty as well.
oh.
I asked her to prove it to me with scripture, and
Hmm.
yeah, she decided, no, I'm going to stay another 6 months here, and so that was it.
So when you said prove it to me in scripture, what do you mean by that?
She gave me probably 3 scriptures. Do I have them right now? No, I'm sorry, but um, yeah, they're the typical ones that describe it's a sin and an abomination. So,
Oh,
I,
that's what you mean.
yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah, like, I really wanted her to be on board with this.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So,
so was it was it that relationship that kind of set you off into
yeah, yeah,
because you were so hurt?
yeah,
What was it?
yeah. I was so brokenhearted, and I really cried out to God, and I said, this hurts so bad. This isn't fair because I really didn't choose to feel this attraction, right? And
Mm.
so I just felt so shattered. And I was like, God, I literally prayed this. I said, God, I did not choose this. If this is not of you, take it away from me, please. And I was bawling my eyes out on my knees. And it didn't change.
It didn't, hey.
No, I
So what
tried to resist with my own, volition.
Mhm.
Yeah.
so why do you think that is? Because a lot of people say I was just born this way, like the
Hmm.
Lady Gaga song, right?
So that question I find is unfortunately one of the hardest to answer regarding any, heartfelt prayer that somebody says in suffering. But I think I have an answer. Because I was powerless over this, it's foolish of me to have thought that I could do anything to change it myself. And God knows your heart better than you do. was I even ready for that change? I don't know.
Mm,
Like, God uses bad for good. We know this and we've seen it before, so I shouldn't be shocked that like 20 some years of my life I lived as a lesbian and I couldn't change that. And it literally takes a miracle. But I feel like that's the beauty of God.
mm,
I had no power going in and no power going out. But I had to be
mm.
willing and I probably had to be broken. The bottom of the barrel story, they use it a lot with addicts. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
maybe was at the bottom of my barrel when.
yeah. And then there's also that in the Bible where it talks about like it's the will of prayer, let your will be done, not my
Mhm,
will, for
mhm,
one.
mhm.
And then also that God's timing is better than our own timing, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it almost sounds like it was one of those situations where
Yeah, and
I'd
all.
love to do this right now, but if I do this right now, it wouldn't be good for you.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
I also think he needed to get me alone
Mm,
because I was surrounded by people and influence and encouragement to be that way also. But it's a funny thing when God gets you alone, hey, and
Oh,
can work in you. Like I moved to a different province and then I was alone, no family, nothing.
no
no,
influence. Yeah.
no distractions.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I can't
I,
answer what God was all up to the whole time, but I have some suspicions.
that's so funny. And then we kind of touched on this before we got on here. We talked about how this happened, like where their doors open. Um, how do you think it happened? I have this book on like generational curses and stuff and how things kind of get passed down from generation to generation if things aren't purged or repented for or healed and things
Mm,
like that.
yeah.
But so why do you think this happened to you? Is there Do you believe in spiritual warfare?
Oh, yes.
What are your thoughts? Like why do you think this?
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I've seen it. I've felt it. It's been part of my family life, my entire life. And I mean, the answer's kind of big, but I'll try and point form this. Number one, there's been sexual abuse in one side of my family for sure. And I don't know all the details. Some people suppress memories, and that's a
Hmm.
protective mechanism. And so be it. But I know that it existed. And if it's not dealt with properly, I think that there's that trickle down effect, right? Now, nobody in my family abused me, thank God. However, I experienced child to child sexual abuse when I was in elementary school and actually maybe even before that. I don't actually remember my age, but I can tell you in grade 1 and 2. Um, and this goes both ways. There were these
Hmm.
boys that had seen things they didn't understand, like a
Hmm.
trauma. So what did they do? They reenacted it. That's how they
Oh, wow.
deal. And I didn't know it was wrong, but it didn't feel right. I don't know how to put that into words properly, but it happened multiple times. And boys and girls, um, improper play, let's say, like girls playing house and kissing and trying to reenact things they've obviously seen. Kids don't make that stuff up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's that. And also, I think if people aren't spiritually sound, I mean, that just opens up all kind of avenues.
Mm,
And who knows what else was going on that I don't know or remember. But that's one of the most significant things I think that happened in my life. And it's just a sexual perversion, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you did you tell anyone?
Oh, yeah. My mom took me to the doctor to make sure everything was okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. She was worried, and it was hard for our family. Um, Small town as well, right? And I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember that. And I just felt weird, and I didn't want to deal with it because I didn't understand.
Do you remember where it was that it happened so we can so parents can maybe watch out for these things? Like, was it a friend came over for coffee and the kids are playing downstairs and friends are visiting upstairs?
Hmm.
Like, is there anything that parents can look for? Like, how did this happen?
Um, Mostly at school. I went to a
Okay.
small school, and while we played out in the forest, we got caught doing things there. One boy decided to go
Okay.
vigilante and go tell on us, and the principal came out. That was
Mm,
awful, but good, right?
yeah.
In hindsight. And then when my grandma was babysitting me, I was playing with neighbor kids, and it happened there too. And that was a totally different town.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there was multiple. Like, how does one kid experience that much? I don't know. But what I would like to know is, how common is this? And it's not being talked about. So that's a great question.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and I think we all know someone who has been impacted by molestation
Hmm.
or even siblings in the family, like you said, playing house, things like that. I think it's quite common,
Hmm.
but we just don't talk about it because there's that burden of shame.
Well, I recall no these two boys. I won't say the family or anything like that, but I know that they saw pornography as young boys, and
Hmm.
I remember hearing that they had maybe accidentally seen their parents. So,
Yeah.
sometimes you can't help those things, but you need to cope with it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did your relationship with God then evolve as you navigated this part of your identity? Were you angry at God? Did you kind of step away from him? Like, how did you have that relationship? If you're having these same-sex relationships,
Hmm.
how does that look?
I don't know if it would have been any different if I was heterosexual, because I could say my heterosexual sisters had similar experience to me in the way of it being kind of like an up and down, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would try to have a relationship with God and maintain that, but I would always slip away. But I mean, I was your average teenager and young adult partying, and not like, you trying to have two different lifestyles, really. You can't be in a relationship with God and then also say, okay, but I'm also just going to go out and get wasted, so see you tomorrow. Like, you
Yeah.
kind of have to try and ask him for help. That's the thing. And you have to be
Yeah.
patient.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
I
then,
I dipped in and out, but I would say it wasn't the right, like, it wasn't so genuine. You know what I mean? Like, I think I unfortunately was following like prosperity gospel
Hmm.
oh
teachers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And was that what your parents followed
Yeah, I would
or
say,
no?
well, my mom, my dad never really came to church or anything like that, but mom, yeah.
Can you describe what that is for anyone watching? Because some people might not even know what that means.
Okay. So prosperity gospel is that light, fluffy, everything's good and God's gonna bless you, and that's how you're getting through hard times, is just to like hang in there. There's no focus on the actual evil that we're dealing with. It's just all
Yeah.
happy, fluffy stuff. It's so
Your Joel
surface.
Osteen is considered
Yep.
prosperity gospel,
Yep.
or
Joyce
minister.
Meyer. There's so many
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah.
disturbing, actually.
Yeah.
Hmm. They're fake. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
not sorry.
Let's talk about when you had this encounter with God. So, all those years, so you were at 19 and you prayed,
Hmm.
nothing happened. You're going about life in and out of being close to God, not close to Him.
Hmm.
And so, what led you to pray that specific prayer again for your deliverance? At what age was it? You
I
prayed again?
did not pray for that again,
Oh, you
actually.
didn't?
No, I
Okay.
didn't. Yeah. Um, eh, my it's like I didn't even have to try. Um, that's the wild thing. But my bottom of the barrel, I would say, is sort of where I ended up. So I could never find a great partner.
Okay.
I could, like, my relationships were kind of garbage. Like, I did date some nice women, but I always, almost always got my heart broken. And I find that kind of funny, you know? And
And you were always looking for women? Were you kind of going
no,
back and forth, or always women?
no, I did kind of try dating a few guys in my, when I was 19, and he was a really nice guy, but I just don't want to go anywhere with it. Like, the
Right.
physical thing was just turned off for me. Like, that wasn't going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so I would always bail before it got serious. And
Right.
I get scared. I'm like, well, they're gonna want to have sex, so I gotta bail. And so that was a huge thing for me. And I think the last guy I kind of saw, maybe I was in my very early 20s, but yeah, it was kind of like, I'm not really, I was never in love. I was in,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so lots of, bad relationships. It didn't turn out. And then I ended up in a long distance relationship in a different province. And that's how I ended up moving. And that relationship turned out to be really quite bad. It was abusive, and I started to realize it because that's really messy. When you're with a narcissist, you don't know what you don't know until it's too late.
Mhm.
And it was hard. There was I almost prepped for a year. I knew it was bad, and then I knew I had to get out. And then I knew I have to do this for myself. This is the only way out, or else I'm either going to be stuck in this or it's going to happen to me again. I was getting stronger. I've always had an interest in psychology and things like that. So I
Mm.
was pursuing knowledge, and I ended up in counseling as well. And thank God I had a counselor she was amazing. She'd
Mm.
been through the same kind of stuff.
When did you move? Like how long has it been since you moved?
It's at the end of January, it's going to be 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I left that relationship. It'll be on January 1st. So on New Year's Day, I celebrate my freedom
Mm.
every year now. And
Okay.
yeah, it's going to be 4 years since I got out of
Freedom
that,
from the relationship, freedom from
the relationship.
the the attraction piece. Okay.
Yeah,
Really.
so after I got out of that relationship, I think I kind of went through a numb period,
Yeah.
And then um, something unexpected happened. My oldest sister moved to be with me, very quite randomly. And she was also being delivered from her own stuff. And so we kind of, unbeknownst to us, we went on a healing journey together. And
Beautiful.
so we moved in together, and we started learning, and we started focusing on God, really redeveloping, but anew, you know what I mean? Like that actual genuine relationship with God. And
Hmm.
it wasn't like that surface level stuff. It wasn't the prosperity stuff. It was the real deal. And we want to know about the evil in the world. And
Hmm.
yeah, what a gift.
Sounds like Carolyn. It sounds like Carolyn and I.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
that's rad.
So you said, like, did you feel different? Did you feel that God delivered you? Like, when was that moment? What changed for you? What
What
happened?
exactly happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I felt really, really free getting out of that relationship. And then I just knew that I wanted to heal and I didn't want to be with anybody. And it's almost like without thinking about it, I just knew, like, you're good now. And then I did have a moment, and maybe it was it, maybe it wasn't. God just literally, this is the miracle of God. Like I said, I didn't have any power to change myself in or out. He just took it away. Like, I literally just didn't look at women that way anymore. Like,
Wow.
I can't even make this up.
Did he replace it with an attraction towards men where you look at men, or it was just like
Kind
that
of.
was gone?
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
And I also, okay, I wasn't a man hater, but I
Mm-hmm.
have more of an attraction and an appreciation for men. And I really want to say that to the world is like, we need to lift up our men. They need to be
Mm-hmm.
leaders again. They need to come back into what they're meant to be because I
100%.
think we're
Yeah.
losing that big time. And
Yeah.
no, we need to love and honor them. There's our strength, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they should
Wow.
be sensitive and not masochistic, you know, but like obviously. But yeah, and you know what? I kind of like a beard now. I'm not gonna lie.
I know.
I
I like
love
men
that.
to be men, and that
Yes.
doesn't mean anything. Like you can have that man that has the thoughtfulness and the sensitivity, but
Yep.
at the end of the day, like to go out, get some meat and bring it back home on your
Yes.
back, like I find that attractive.
So
Being
funny
a
you said
provider,
that.
right?
Do you feel that some people might say this is going to pass, Michelle? This is going to pass.
Mm, such a good question, because I anticipate that. And I really want to encourage people to stop and think, especially if you know me. I'm not messing around. Like, I can't
Mm-hmm.
make this up. And I think 4 years is pretty good of being certain, you know? But
Mm-hmm.
I feel free. That's what's important. I feel like a weight was lifted off my heart. I don't even think I knew how bad it was. Like,
Yeah.
I feel a peace in my heart I can't explain. And I don't care what anybody thinks about that.
Yeah, but you had talked about before we started the show or this episode, you talked about how you kind of faced the same similar
Mm.
things of how you did when you were, I don't know if you had a coming out party or anything like that, but just like how people face that, when they're coming out, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being accepted, and then the reversal of that,
Yeah,
you feeling the same feelings.
you know
Do you want to
what?
talk about?
It's just as scary
Yeah.
because I this makes me vulnerable and I don't want to be judged. I want people to
Hmm.
understand, okay, we're living in a society, we're living in a time right now where there's a huge focus on acceptance and equality. And well, you guys like turn on a news channel or go look at social media. It's raw, 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 accept everyone for everything that they are. And so for me, it's like, okay, I was so scared about being accepted as a lesbian, and I came out real slow. Like I was tiptoeing out of the closet. It was really scary for me. And
Mm.
so now I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's been long enough. Like, not that many people know this. But I would ask anybody who does know me, search your heart. You know me. I'm as genuine as can be. And I will say that I have had friend loss as I've
Hmm.
changed. I have had
Hmm.
arguments. I did have one friend where I used to live. She really challenged me, and she had the audacity to ask me, "Well, are you even like part of the LGBT community anymore?" kind of thing. And as soon as I was honest about it, it was like something changed. And I thought,
Hmm.
you accept me as a lesbian, but if I changed, then no. Like I've felt so judged, even though I haven't even really expressed this. So I caution, I anticipate, but
Hmm.
I'm proud of this. I'm proud of what God has done. And
Hmm.
if I can touch one person's life or somebody can relate to me, I think that anything that comes my way, it's worth it.
That's how I feel too when you say you felt judged, because I feel too, like at the beginning of this interview, just even talking about the pronouns, like we should be loving and accepting in whatever we feel is right for us, right? I don't want people forcing me to act or be a certain way, just
Mm-hmm.
like the other people wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
So people should accept you,
Yeah.
whether you are or not. I don't know how that's so one-sided. It seems
Yeah.
that people would just chuck you now.
And the
Chuck you
other,
out, you know, you're out.
yeah, but the other part of that that I think is it comes along with it is okay, so then how do we treat? How do we act? How do we behave? Well, just look at the Bible. You love the sin or hate the sin. And
Love that when you said that to me. Love that.
yeah, and so because now here I am where I am, I don't just automatically judge or hate
Yeah.
or condemn somebody who is homosexual. Actually, my heart goes out to them because I know how broken I was. And a lot of my homosexual friends, I'm sorry, I see how broken they are. We've all gone through stuff. That's what makes us,
Yeah.
need God.
So
And
so how should Christians respond to the LGBTQ community?
with love.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's a line somewhere. I don't think we should be celebrating pride in church, okay? That just to me is an abomination. I've
Mm-hmm.
actually always kind of been on pride, like parades and that kind of stuff, because I've seen some grossness in it. And I
Yeah.
don't like a lot of what I've seen in the community. And they can be very much that way. If you're not like this, well, then, you know, you're against me. It's very offended all the time. And God said we're not to be an offense. So I think the right circumstance, church-wise, is to welcome people from the community, but there has to be an understanding that we're not here to promote or endorse or encourage that lifestyle. We're here to help you get to know God
Mm-hmm.
and get healing. Because
Yeah.
quite frankly, a lot of people, and again, I study some psychology in my spare time. I've always found it interesting. I even took psych in high school. But a lot of people who experience these kinds of things have some really serious traumas to work
Yeah.
out.
You hear that all the time.
And one other thing I want to point out that I've noticed as a pattern, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I want to understand what this is, because I don't really have an understanding of why it is this way, but I've seen it in TV shows and I've seen it in real life. So I'll try and explain easily. So let's say you have someone who starts out homosexual, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then they end up discovering that, well, maybe I'm trans. And then they transition. And then they realize as a transition person, they're then again homosexual. So I knew a woman who was a lesbian. She transitioned to a guy, and then he was dating a guy. And that kind of blows my mind, and I don't really know what that's about, but I do think it's important.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael
See what
Knowles
you're doing.
had, there's lots of different interviews you can find on YouTube, and there's lots of people on the left trying to hush what has happened to transitioners, because there's lots of detransitioners speaking out about
Mm-hmm.
what's happened to them and what affirming care does to them. Because if you're someone that's not used to being seen, and the one way to get seen is all of a sudden they're affirming you and they're saying all this, well, it feels real darn good.
Mm-hmm.
And so you go through with it. And then after everything's all said and done, well, then that air is gone, then that empty feeling is still inside you. And so what happens? But there are lots, like you said, there was a really good interview that I think it was Michael Knowles that did it with this woman who transitioned into a man, who then transitioned back into a woman. The gentleman that she got married to was attracted to men, then, and they got together during this whole, before they basically got saved. And so now he's attracted to his wife as she is.
Wow.
And so they actually came to Christ, and they cried and they repented and asked for the deliverance, and they were saved. And the Bible says God created a man and a woman to be together. And what Satan does, and what we read about Satan, is that he perverts everything. And so pervert everything, meaning like making a woman attracted to a woman, a man attracted to a man, that type thing. And so, yeah, it's interesting because if you look for it, the stories are there. And
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to start seeing that a lot more coming out. People, even Candace Owens did an interview with a detransitioner, but you'll see it a lot more because of the way that the media is going now. People are moving from TV over to YouTube
Yeah.
and see and taking their news from independent sources that you can trust.
It's
They're not
proven.
pushing an agenda, but pushing the truth.
Yeah, people want real people, and people don't even want reality TV shows anymore. They want real people, and that's why TikTok's so big.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Have you guys seen Chloe Cole, who Jordan Peterson interviewed?
No.
She's actually suing doctors in the US because of what happened to her. Her parents went through the whole manipulation thing. Would you rather have a dead kid or a trans kid? Kind of
Right.
guilting. And I've watched tons of testimonies and interviews on that, and it's alarming. Can you imagine as a parent hearing that? That's not even fair. There's a lot out there, and I'm really glad it's coming out. And that's why I think, you know what, get out and talk about it, because the more that do, the more easily people are going to come to realize, oh, maybe we pushed that a little too hard or a lot
Oh
too
yeah.
hard.
Yeah, and there's this lesbian woman who was pushing that agenda, who then admitted to essentially regretting pushing so hard because she was like, it's gone way too far at this point.
Well, back to what you said. Think about a young kid who doesn't have a good home life and they're desperate for attention. We know the story, it's a tale as old as time. Any
Mm-hmm.
attention they'll take, and acting out or whatever. So here's this alliance at our school, and it's like, oh, I'm welcomed, I'm accepted, and maybe, yeah, maybe I am different. And it just, we know that the frontal lobe isn't developed until you're how old? Like maybe 17 to 24, depending, right?
Yeah.
So that means you don't have the capacity to rationalize all things. How can you be so self-aware at that age? Like I was a hot mess. Like
Well,
puberty was
literally,
awful.
you can lob off
Right.
your bits and pieces, but you still can't go to the bar
Yeah,
uh,
can't
until
vote.
you're 21. You can't have a drink until you're 21 in
Yeah,
a bar,
yeah.
but you can make those long-lasting life changes. It makes no sense.
I just wish people would see this. Like I talk to people who advocate for this kind of stuff, and I'm like, do you hear yourself? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no.
I was interested in finding out. I wrote this in ChatGPT. Why is it that the left people call people that don't agree with their views on the LGBTQ community as haters, etc.? Because we get that a lot,
Yeah.
where we're called bigots. There's racists, all of this kind of stuff. If you don't agree with
Trans-phobe.
someone's morals or values, but this is what it said, and I thought it was really good. This tendency often arises from deeply polarized perspectives and emotional investment in the issue. Many people on the left view LGBTQ plus rights as fundamental human rights and believe that disagreement on such issues equates to denying someone's identity or dignity, which makes sense.
Mhm.
Consequently, they may interpret opposition as rooted in hatred, bigotry, or intolerance, especially if disagreement involves moral or religious objections that critique LGBTQ plus lifestyles or rights. And then it goes on to say, at the same time, critics of this labeling argue that not all disagreement stems from hate, which is kind of where I'm at. I know Carol's at, and yourself. but from differing beliefs, values, or religious convictions. They feel that being labeled as haters oversimplifies complex discussions and dismisses their viewpoint without fair consideration. And lastly, it says, in polarized debates, it's common for both sides to misunderstand or mischaracterize the intentions of the other, leading to accusations and heightened emotions rather than constructive dialogue. And we see this on campuses everywhere. Like Michael Knowles, he is a right-wing, like conservative, and he visits colleges everywhere. And there's so much protests and hate thrown at him. And the thing that I take up issue with is, you know, you don't want people to judge and hate you, but yet you're spewing the same hatred nonsense. So
Yeah.
where like there's no, it's calling the kettle black, right?
Well,
Like
you know
it's
what else it is? It's gaslighting.
which I don't like. Yeah, exactly.
I'm tired of being told what I am. I will
Yeah,
let you know what I am. I love
yeah.
people, but I see a lot of hurt and broken in this world.
Yeah. They hurt people, right?
Oof. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's just gaslighting. Like and always those are where the fights are. We're not looking
Mm-hmm.
to get into a fight. We're looking to have a discussion. We're not getting inflamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's coming from
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, and personally for me, like you said, hate the sin, not the sinner. I have friends, like we have a really good friend that we used to work at Boston Pizza, and he's attracted to men, and I wouldn't just end my relationship with him just because I follow Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I adore him, and I don't have that kind of hatred in my heart.
Exactly.
Not even for somebody who has hurt me so badly. My son's father, he's currently living in my house right now, and that's as much hate I have in my heart. I will put my enemy in my house and let them eat my food and sleep on my couch just so that they can get back on their feet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's love.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. I
So,
wouldn't not be friends with someone who's gay. And so conversely, I hope that
yeah.
someone who's gay wouldn't not want to be friends with me anymore because I'm not on the team anymore.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't look at people's stances on that. I just, if you're good to me, I'm good to you.
Yeah. Yep. And you know
So,
how people are. They need to come to it on their own.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's why we started this channel, right? We had our own encounter with Jesus, and so now this channel is meant for just learning and growing together. Hey, and if some people want to come on board, that's awesome. And if some people don't, it's their choice, right?
I don't know if you know Douglas Murray. You too. He's a political commentator. He's quite amazing, very educated. He's written some books and stuff like that. But
Canadian?
no, I'm pretty sure he's from Britain or some place in Europe.
Okay.
But he's been on what's that one guy's show? Piers Morgan.
Oh, okay.
He's been on Piers Morgan so many times. And then this one gay commentator was on there one day, didn't realize that Douglas Murray is also gay.
Mm-hmm.
And he was throwing some hate towards him and saying that, oh, you're just talking about LGBTQ plus community. And he had such a good response back saying, I've been gay since long before you were even in diapers. But he said that he doesn't consider himself part of that community because he thinks that it can breed hate. When we have these communities, what it can do is it's like church. It can be a polarizing thing where
religion, like Michelle said.
You say you're a Christian or something, or you're part of this church and that church. It can breed hate and pit each other against each other. Whereas we can just say, no, we follow Christ.
Mm-hmm.
We're not part of a religion, but we do follow Christ Jesus.
I'm not sure if you would have heard about it. There was a situation, let's say, during a gay pride parade in Edmonton, and it was literally shut down for
No.
quite a period of time. I want to say this was maybe 2018, 19, or 20. I really don't recall, but I remember hearing about it. And it was a racial issue though within, and then so you get that in the mix, right? And people were fighting in the street. And there was this whole commotion, and it shut down the parade like an hour or something until they got it under control. The pride community there, I've seen some really bad behavior from, and they didn't even have a parade the next year because it was such a
Yeah.
gong show, right?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, there's a lot between or like within the community even that's not good. And I always had a very negative view of it. And so I didn't really participate in much of any of that, which I'm grateful for because quite frankly, if you want to call it a family friendly event, maybe you want to put your package away because I
Me
I
don't
know.
too.
want to see the banana hammocks. And I don't think little kids need to.
Yeah.
Why is it
It's
always
very
about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, you see a lot of skin, a
Yeah.
lot. And I don't know why it has to be
Could-
so out there.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, it's about community and community and.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
exactly.
just find it's inappropriate, and I always did, no matter how gay I was. So that's pretty gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, find a friend of mine. I don't maybe don't have those friends anymore, but
So going off of that, like how has your view of yourself then changed and your identity changed since your encounter with God? How has that changed?
well, I'm my identity. I mean, I definitely feel straight, which is wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like this is kind of a big deal, you guys.
It's huge because people will say that's, it's just a phase. Like because I was born this way, like we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that was? Like, how do you think it changed? It was God.
Yes, and
I think it was.
I also want to say this. I look back because again, remember I said it wasn't fair and I felt like I didn't choose it, but when I look back on that time in my life, like before or during when the first girlfriend happened, I definitely
Mm-hmm.
gave in to temptation. So to act on it, right? So it starts in the mind. You're thinking about it. You're thinking about it
Mm-hmm.
so much you want it to happen. I just liken that to probably drugs. You give in to temptation to try a drug, and then it was like an addiction. I actually could compare it to that because I wanted more. I was enthralled. I was in love, right? And so it's detrimental to know that. I made choices, but I couldn't see at that time how like hello Michelle, you are actually participating in something. You're making a decision to do it. So if I'd have resisted my flesh, because that's what we're instructed to do, resist the devil and he will flee. If I would have said, get lost, I know that that's not right. Eventually, I probably would have come out of it. And I would have needed some prayer and that kind of thing. But that's something I think is really important to share is that I kind of did play a role. And so,
Like you say, you come into agreement with sin.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I really feel like I've been delivered. I feel free. And um, I feel clear, like I just feel so much stronger in my relationship with God. I understand so much now. I feel like I understand so much about what happened and what's happening to other people that I could explain and help. And I could talk about this for hours. I'm literally an
Me too.
expert on this now because I put in a full career and I've actually written a book, but it's not anywhere near done. So, um, I don't know
Nice.
when that's going to happen, but it's called Over the Rainbow. And I got over it.
Oh, wow,
You know
good.
what? One
Yeah,
time,
I like
that's
the title.
amazing.
thank you. My family and I were driving down the highway and we actually drove through the end of a rainbow. And do you know what I looked back to see afterwards to see what looked like? There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
never
wow.
forgot that.
I got I got shivers.
You know, nothing was there.
You know, it's funny that you say that you gave into sin, because there was a period in my life where I I knew that I was going from one relationship to the next, so I knew that I needed to be alone. And that was hard to get through. I went through, oh, it was bad because I was very codependent. It was like me getting off of a drug. It took me a long time, and I cried and I cried, and I went through a period of, yeah, sadness and sorrow and depression. And but then I came on the other side. I came out on the other side. So then I just thought, you know what? When I meet people like men, I'm just going to date them. I'm not going to get into these quick relationships like mom, you know, she used to just, I think our mom has never really been alone, but she's always had someone there. I kind of learned that through that. So when I started to meet guys, I was just like, not forever. So next, right? I would be careful not to get intimate with them, because I didn't want to like end up being like falling into some attached. Thank you. And so what happened was I was single for so long, for like about 4 years. Then I started to wonder why. Like I wasn't like attracted or wanting to stay with anyone.
Really?
And at one point I thought of, am I gay? No, because I was meeting these nice looking guys.
Yeah.
They had great jobs, but I wasn't attracted
You
to
went through
them.
the what's wrong with me thing.
I did.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, as a child, my parents were divorced. So we would go to my dad's apartment. I remember seeing some magazines in his side bed table there of like, you know, nudes, like, you know, porn magazines. And that really did something to me.
Did it hurt you?
Just No, just seeing that, it just really confused me, right? And the other thing was dad used to make us like cut out, he wouldn't make us, we just did it for him because he liked the sunshine girl, right? So we
Oh,
would
yeah.
cut out the pretty, and then we would tape them on the back of his bedroom door. So that really confused me, you know, and
Yeah.
at the time I had that question of, am I? And I am guilty of, I remember going to some Christmas parties or work parties and kissing a few girls. Like we would have like a guy would try and come bug us to
Yeah.
try and, you know, and I'm like, no, I'm with her. And then, you know, it would happen. But I think there was this one instant where I was kind of attracted to this girl, and then it never went anywhere. And after that it just kind of disappeared. But from then on, I've never had that thought. But like you, I could have, well, you entertained it, whereas I could have really entertained it. And it's interesting how some people, like, it was a confusing time for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was so set up too, right? The guys I liked just wanted to use me, and the girl I liked
Right.
didn't.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and
that sounds like spiritual warfare, right?
oh,
In
yeah.
itself.
Well, I mean, get them while they're young.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, even being intimate with people, well, with my boyfriends, it was almost like I was looking for the after, the holding, that kind of, so not the experience, but the connection after. So like you, I was more interested in the connection, and I knew that by doing that, I would get that after. So it was like kind of a symbiotic relationship, if you want to say, so to speak. But I mean, it really left me feeling empty at the end of it. So
Yeah.
I had to learn the hard way of seeing what my mom was doing. It just, this codependent, boy, did I come out on the other side like you, but it took a long time.
And I
So
think the more people we share ourselves with, we lose a little part of ourselves every time.
yeah. So what would you
We have to
say?
call those parts back, is what I learned in spiritual warfare.
Oh, interesting. Good one.
Yeah. So with the pastor at Promised Lands, that's what he said. We did some prayer work around that.
Yeah.
So basically sending away those parts that we kept from others. Basically, when we sleep with someone, we sleep with their demons too.
Oh, yes.
So we take on that stuff. And so there's this breaking off and, you know, sending back those pieces to them and then calling those pieces back to ourselves so that we can have our wholeness back. Yeah.
I was going to say, what would you then say to someone that is kind of was in your situation, someone that's going through this, that here's the story, they're in this, they're thinking to themselves, there's nothing wrong with me. Like but they might be in denial.
Yep.
How do you wrestle with that?
The first thing I'll preface by saying this, I've come across something interesting, and I would almost challenge people to look within themselves or talk to people they know, or just really just give this some thought. I believe that at least most people who are homosexual actually have an inner conflict with it. For some reason, it's hard to come out. And everybody's going to automatically say, well, that's because of society. That's because we've been told for so long that whatever. But you know what? I actually have a firsthand account that sort of disproves that. I know a mom of a young lady who, and this mom is amazing. She is loving and supporting, and she's not like us. She's very much of the culture of today where it's like, whatever you are, like it's fine and you're loved and it's good and it's okay. Which is amazing for a mom to say, because it's scary no matter who you are or what. I don't know. Do you know any young kids who come out and they're like, I'm gay? No, it's scary and they're afraid to say it, right? That's because there is something inside of us that says something doesn't feel right about this. And there's that inner conflict. So this young lady, she's been told by her mom, honey, it's your story. You come out as you choose and when you choose, and you don't have to tell anyone you don't want to or until you're ready. And this young lady still has a fear of like coming out. And you gotta look at that. You gotta look at that. So what I would say is hold fast. Try and understand. And if you can find someone to talk to, you should, because I had to, oh boy, I had to wait a few years. This was horrible for me because when my first girlfriend and I broke up, I didn't have anyone to talk to. So I literally had to sit in that heartache and pretend everything was fine, and I was dying inside. I was so crushed. And I mean, anybody can almost relate when you get your heart stomped on real good the first time, like that is your whole world. And so I would say guard your heart and try and understand before you even do anything, because you need to learn a lot about yourself. Like, I don't want to focus on sexuality or sex in this subject, but you don't know yourself until you're way older. And kids are getting involved way younger now than ever before. And it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight or a pumpkin. You're going to experience things you are not even, you don't have the capacity for. It's not your fault. You're still developing. So talking to someone is wonderful, but picking who that person is what's really detrimental. And not everybody knows a Christian. They don't have to be, but the fact that you go to someone and say, I'm struggling with this, and they just say, oh, we'll encourage you into it. Just look at that fundamentally. Does that sound right to you? Like if I came and said, hey, I think I want to drink for breakfast every day. And you said, that's okay. I'll help you into it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Caution. Like, I don't know. I really care about the young people of today. I don't have kids, but they're our future, and we got to quit messing around. It's a very hard example I like to give, but body dysmorphia, if a bulimic went to a therapist or a doctor and said, I'm fat, would the doctor agree with her? No. The doctor would say, you're not, and I'm going to help you understand you're not, right? So I kind of compare it to that a lot of times.
Mhm.
And that's kind of more with the trans community because that's a way bigger deal. But you see what I'm saying, right? Like we just encourage everything because we don't want to offend and hurt someone. And
That's true.
I had to go through my own crap anyways. Like I didn't even talk to my mom for a few years because she said, I love you no matter what you think you are. And I was so offended by that.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I think I am, you know? But
Yeah.
thank God, you know, we're back.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have so much more to talk to. Like, well, like we have so much more to talk about. What we're gonna do is we're gonna just hit a pause here and come back. And so everyone that's stayed for this whole thing so far, we're gonna see if we need maybe to do a 2-3 part in this. So everyone, please like, subscribe, and share this episode, but also come back for the second part. We will have that because we've got lots of more to cover. Hey, Michelle,
Yeah.
we got lots more.
Anyone who knows me knows I can talk, but this is so important. This is my life, but it's also a bunch of other people's lives.
What's so important. So what we're going to do is break this off into 2 or 3 segments so that you can take a break and then come back and then join us again. Sound good?
Awesome.
Sounds
Okay.
awesome. Okay, thanks for
Awesome.
joining us. We'll see you again,
Thanks.
Thanks,
and
guys.
let's make heaven crowded.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.